everyone, and a very good evening. A big shout out and a warm welcome from the Vue.js Sri Lanka community to all of our amazing developers tuning in tonight. Whether you're joining from home, your office, school, or uni, we see you, we appreciate you. Tonight's session is all about bringing everyone together beginners, pros, and those who just Googled what is Vue.js 5 minutes ago. This session is aimed to explore fresh ideas, sharpen our skills, and stay connected with the evolving world of Vue. This is a space where we grow together, share knowledge, and get inspired by the incredible work happening across the global Vue ecosystem. Before we dive in, here's a quick look at who we are as a community. Our mission is to build a friendly, inclusive environment where developers of all levels can learn, experiment, and collaborate using Vue.js. Our vision is quite simple to nurture a strong local ecosystem powered by meetups, workshops, and meaningful connections that help each other members advance in their journey. And our goal is to uplift the Sri Lanka's tech community while contributing to the global Vue.js movement in our own impactful way. All right, then, the moment we have all been waiting for is finally here. Let's shine the spotlight on our incredible speaker for tonight. He's a full stack developer all the way from Argentina, a senior software engineer at Titan, and a creator who's been building brilliant things for more than 15 years. He has collaborated with Vue School, built the official Vue.js certification app, and contributed to platforms for Vue.js and Next Nation. He's passionate about crafting fast, seamless, and genuinely joyful web experiences with Vue. And on top of all that, he writes brilliant technical blogs for Titan. Absolutely worth a read if you haven't checked them out yet. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Nico Devs. Nico, the platform is all yours.
Hey, hello. Thank you so much, Haiti. I'm so happy to be here. Hello, Sri Lanka. How are you? Welcome. Make sure to leave your messages in the live chat. Hello, Argentina. Yeah, let's go. Hey, I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much for picking me for this first ever Vue.js Sri Lanka community meetup. Again, I'm really proud to be the first speaker in what I hope it will be many meetups for your wonderful community. There are a couple of speakers lined up for the coming months that are incredible. So again, thank you so much for inviting me to your first event ever. This is an honor, and I hope you enjoy this talk. And Heidi did a wonderful introduction, so I included these slides in my presentation to introduce myself, but I don't think I can make a better job. Again, I'm Nico Devs. I'm a senior full stack developer. I'm working currently at Titan. I'm an old guy. I've been on the industry for more than 15 years. And one of the companies I worked with was Vue School, a website that you may already know because I worked there creating not only the online learning platform, but also the Vue.js certification that perhaps a couple of you may have taken. And also these amazing online events, Next Nation and Vue.js Nation. But enough about me. This is not about me. This is about Vue. You are here for Vue.js. You want to learn Vue.js. You want to learn about Next, Bit, Piña, Vue Router, Vue Use, Nitro, HRE, and all these cool technologies that power the Vue ecosystem. And I don't know if you agree, but sometimes learning all these tools may be a little bit overwhelming. Don't get me wrong, it's amazing. The journey is spectacular, but yeah, it can be pretty hard sometimes. And web development is hard. You may relate. You want to create an application or a digital product, and you want your users to enjoy what you build, but suddenly you have to know about bundlers, minification, chunking, server-side rendering, hydration, thousands of npm packages is a lot. Honestly, is a lot. And if you feel that way, let me tell you, you are not alone. The truth is that web developer development is hard. It's easy to forget that because nowadays you can fire up an AI and ask it to build an application and it will do it in under a minute and you will be, okay, but it is hard. And you need to know that your edge as a web developer, as a software engineer, comes from understanding what is happening. You must understand what and why. And let me explain. AI can write the thing, of course, but you must know why it's built that way. What is the AI creating and why it took those decisions? For example, you may need to crack open an application and start exploring the components, the router, the thing that makes the request to the API, and you should understand what is happening under the hood, but also why is built that way. Those awesome technologies that we just saw, what problems are here to solve? And that understanding is what gives you the edge, where the application was built by an AI or by your teammates, right? Or perhaps you want to contribute to open source and you must understand then the code of that package. So that understanding is what will give you the real power as a software engineer, what it will give you the edge. And knowing why things are built the way they are, why we build single page applications, why we use Vue, why even we pick Vue over React, right? So that is the theme of this session. This talk is called Why Vue.js, the evolution of the single page application. And this is a history lesson. But please don't go away. It will not be boring. It's not a boring history lesson. We're not here to learn about ancient Greece or ancient Rome, but rather the ancient internet. We're going to explore the history of the web from the 90s to our days to understand how the concept of web application was born. So, to understand the present, sometimes, most of the times, perhaps we need to look at the past. Because nowadays, web applications are pretty common, right? You go to YouTube or Twitch or Netflix to enjoy video. You may fire Slack or Discord to chat with your friends. You might create awesome designs on Canva, on Figma, and all these applications are running in the browser, right? And they are really dynamic and responsive and super fast. But the thing is that it was not always the case. Back then, we only had websites and mostly static websites. So let's travel back in time with me to understand how the internet went from static websites to these amazing applications running in the browser. To do that, we need to travel back in time. Travel back in time to a distant past, the distant year of 1996. And I realized some of you weren't even born that year. I was a little kid, and this was the era of Netscape, of Internet Explorer running on Windows 95, of the first early web pages when the internet was this weird thing, right? And I don't know if you remember this awesome movie, Space Jam, where this was an amazing movie. I loved it as a kid. You had Bugs Bunny teaming up with Michael Jordan to fight against this alien invasion in a basketball match. It was pretty cool. But even cooler was the website. The website of Space Jam in 1996 was this relic that you have on your screen right now. It was amazing. And yeah, back then, this was kind of the trend on web design. And yeah, things have changed a lot, but this was top notch back then. And the cool thing is that we can visit this website today to explore how the internet was back then. Join me. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's open the Space Jam website, and you can visit it by visiting spacejam/1996. And here it is, the Space Jam website. Okay, let's see what we can find. Oh my gosh, look at this green background. It's amazing, don't you agree? I think it's amazing. This website is built using frames. Yes, these are frames. Let me tell you, I don't know what I'm gonna find here. But yeah, pretty cool. Mostly text and images. That was the internet back then. This was what we had, and it was super cool and super special. And let me tell you, it's loading fast thanks to today's internet speed. But back in the day, you could be waiting a while, staring at the screen, waiting for the images to load. The internet was very slow back then. Again, this website is built with iframes, and I chose this particular section, and I am only showing the page outside of the frames to explore these photos from the film section, this photo gallery, and see how is built, how it was built back in the day. So you can click one of the pictures and you can go back to the menu. You can click another one. You can click next. And as you can see, the URL is changing. Here we are on live anim 9.html, and we click next, go back to live anim 1 HTML, so far and so forth. So every click fires a GET request to the server, and we are redirected to a completely different HTML. And I will prove that to you. Let's see the source code of this page. And you can see here we are on this third image, the third page for the image gallery. And yeah, you have here the image and the description. And if we go to the next one and explore the source code, yeah, you have the fourth image with their description. And as you can see, these two HTML files are pretty similar, right? The only thing that changes is the path of the image and the description. But despite that, the browser needs to get the new HTML, parse it, fetch all the assets, and repaint the whole thing, even though the only part of the page that actually changes from the perspective of the user is the image and the description, right? So, as you may have noticed, this is pretty inefficient. Put a pin on that. We're gonna get back to that. But before we move on, I wanted to show you this pretty cool page because it gives you a downloadable asset, this super cool basketball, so you can use it in your browser. They were expecting you to use Macintosh running on Netscape. So you can download this browser icon and replace Netscape icon with this super cool basketball. But that didn't work for Windows users. Look at this. Sorry, Windows users. Come on, man. Let's continue. This website is amazing, but I have another pretty cool example for you to know how was the internet back then. I got my first computer in the year 2000. It was a compact Presario, yeah, just like this one. Yeah, pretty old setup. Rate my setup, please. I think it was fine for the era. But yeah, this computer came with Windows 98 and Internet Explorer 5. Sorry, if you ever develop for IE, you know how hard it was. But I actually have something to thank Internet Explorer for. You know, my PC came with the Office suite installed. So, like Word, Excel, and another amazing program, Front Page. Let me know if you remember Front Page. Perhaps I'm the only one that remembers Front Page. But yeah, my Internet Explorer had a little button on the top right corner that read Edit Page with Front Page. And one day I clicked that button and my life changed forever because the wonderful front page started booting up and suddenly I have a web page editor in front of me. And I was able to take any website, for example, the Space Jam website, and edit it using front page. I will grab the markup, tweak it to create my own pages. Yeah, that was exactly what I did back then. Editing pages was as easy as editing a Word document, just with like 300% more tables, but it was really, really cool. And I started creating funny websites that I uploaded to the internet. And you may be wondering where? Well, to this incredible service, GeoCities. Let me know if you remember GeoCities. Hooray for GeoCities in the chat, please. And this was a Yahoo service. And anyone in the world was able to join GeoCities with their Yahoo account and upload their sites to the internet. It was basically like hosting for these pretty small websites that we created back then. And people did. Yeah, people created these personalized websites using either front page, Dreamweaver, or even the Notepad, right? And it just editing the HTML by hand and uploaded their websites to GeoCities. Here we have a couple of samples. For example, we have this amazing page for called Winnerville for some reason, for a couple of dogs, lovely dogs. Another one for dogs, this one right here for what it looks like a couple of golden retrievers. And yeah, people were creating websites for their favorite things, right? And perhaps your favorite thing is cheese. And yes, this was a real website hosted on GeoCities. Pretty base, if you ask me. Cheese is the best thing I have ever eaten. Wow. Yeah, that was the website. And yeah, GeoCities was kind of weird. Back then, I had pretty limited internet time at home. So I used to create my websites offline with front page and save them into floppy disks and visit the internet cafe, insert the floppy disk into their old PCs, and upload my files to GeoCities. Yes, this was the profile page that you had on GeoCities. As you can see, you had your personalized URL, geocities.com/ and your username. And down here, you could visit the file manager. And by file manager, I mean a form. It was basically a form. Don't imagine like pretty file uploaders with percentages and with loaders and with all that. No, it was just a form. Deal with it. You were able to pick like a number of files, click upload files, and pray. And if everything went well, you will be redirected to a success message page where your files were listed. So I didn't know about FTP back then. Don't judge me. I use this form to upload my sites to GeoCities. So yeah, it was a classic, old traditional form with the form tag, the method attribute, the action attribute, like this one, right? And this was not only pretty common that back then. This was the way, right? This was the way of submitting a post request to the server, and the server will take the data, process it, and return most likely with a redirect response that will land you in a different page. So the file manager was pretty terrible. Yeah, that's right. But the Space Jam website was awesome. Yeah, and it's still awesome today. But what I want you to notice is that back then, the idea of single page applications did not exist. It was the era of full page reloads, right? So let's take another concrete example. Let's say you have this cool website, right? And you have a subscribe form that the user can fill. And when they click subscribe, a post request will hit the server, and the server will redirect you to thanks HTML, for example. And again, as I said with the Space Jam gallery, what is changing between these two pages? Well, not much, am I right? The form is replaced by the success message, this thanks that you have here, but not much. And this was a lot of work for the browser, and might not seem like it, but it was a full page reload. Makes the browser, again, parse the whole HTML and repaint everything from scratch. And you know, you may think, well, it's not that bad. Nowadays, we have a quick internet. So I will give you an example so you can put yourself in the shoes of the browser. Let's imagine you are an animator, right? And you have to animate this scene with 3 frames, right? So what do animators do? They look at this scene, and the only thing that is changing is the mouth, the position of the mouth of the character, right? And they need to animate just the mouth talking. So they will have a static frame, and on top of that, they will draw the mouth in their different positions, right? And when you animate this, it looks like the character is speaking. And that's how it works, right? So imagine for a moment that as an animator, your boss comes and it tells you, okay, you are not allowed to do that. You need to redraw the whole thing frame by frame. So you have to redraw the computer, the character, the glasses, and the mouth. And when you need to draw the next frame, you have to start from scratch with a blank page. So now you know what the browser feels when it needs to repaint the whole thing. And of course, I'm just joking, but the thing is, it is expensive. It's an expensive operation for the browser. We can make things much more efficient because from the perspective of the user, the faster things are, the better the experience will be, right? So let me ask you a question. Can we change what's on the page without a full page reload? And of course, the answer is yes. You know about JavaScript. And JavaScript allows us to listen for interactions like the click of a button or submission of a form, and change, edit what the user sees on the page, thanks to the DOM. What is the DOM? And how can JavaScript alter the DOM? Well, let's take this page, for example. It's just a super simple page, just a heading and a link. And the DOM is a representation of all the elements on the page, or as a tree with different branches and little nodes. Each node represents an element on the page. So for example, here we have a document and root HTML element, and then a head and a body. On the head, we have the title, which is my title, and in the body, we have an element H1 and an element A, the link, right? So we can go ahead and use JS to alter this DOM. This is the document object model, and JavaScript can interact and modify the elements on the page by altering the DOM, right? So you can go ahead and, for example, change the heading text, right? You can replace a heading with hello world, for example. Just a super trivial example, but you may select the element and set the inner text of the element to hello world. And of course, this is something that you may already know. But why am I bringing this to the discussion? Well, because we can do that here on this example, right? JS was not even close to back then to what it is today, but it still had the power to alter the DOM and make these modifications, right? So imagine if we had the ability to send the post request in the background, right? And wait for the response of the server and then update the page without a full page reload, without a redirect. We alter the page the user is seeing. So it will be something like this. We are in subscribe HTML, we send the post request, and the server might even reply with a piece of HTML, not a redirect, just a piece of HTML that we can use to modify the current DOM. So something like this. We are still on the same page and we replace the form with the thanks. And this was what back then the people started using, right? Thanks to a pretty cool innovation of the year 2000. It was XML HTTP request. And this started the Ajax revolution. And let me tell you, it changed everything. It was a technology that was available on the Internet Explorer browser. It had like a little version of ActiveX as well, working on Outlook. But yeah, in the year 2000, people started using XML HTTP requests to make these requests on the background, get the data from the server, and update the pages. So let's explore for a moment what does XML HTTP request means. Well, XML was a data format, this data format that you can see here, to basically to transport data, to transport information. But you could use XML HTTP request to also transport HTML. So HTML, as you can see, is pretty similar to XML. So the code back then looked something like this. Yeah, it's pretty awful code if you ask me, but it allowed you to do these amazing interactions and send the request in the background and replace the elements that you have on the page. Let's explore this snippet. We have here, we are reading the email, the email input. We are checking which version of XML request do we have. Is the XML HTTP request or the ActiveX object one? And then we prepare the params for the form. We create an HR post form. We say where we want to submit this information to. We set a header and we start listening for the change. This is the callback that will run on change. And if the ready state is 4, meaning that everything is done, and if the status is 200, meaning okay, we can then go ahead and hide the form and then replace the inner HTML of message with the response that we got from the server. And we go ahead and send this. That is a lot. I don't know if you agree, but it's a lot. But back then, this is what we had. And this technology allowed different services to start using these interactions, these AJAX interactions. The term AJAX didn't exist yet, but the possibility of sending requests in the background allowed websites to adopt this approach and suddenly feel much more faster. So all these websites that adopted Ajax early felt dramatically faster than everything else, and it paid off. One of the first websites that implemented this kind of approach was Gmail. Gmail in the year 2004 took the world by storm because of two big reasons. First, it offered 1 GB of free storage. I know, 1 GB of free storage. Incredible. That was unheard of. Because back then you could send an email and it would bounce if the recipient's inbox was full, which was not uncommon back then. So Gmail completely changed that. And the second big reason was that its navigation was powered entirely by XML HTTP requests by Ajax, right? So no full page reloads. So Gmail, Flickr, I don't know if you remember Flickr, and Basecamp were among the first to adopt these kind of strategies. And they didn't feel like static websites. They didn't feel like those old websites of the past. They felt like applications, right? Almost like desktop software, but running in the browser. And that was the moment when the idea of the web application really took shape. By then, every major browser had added some version of XML HTTP requests of this function. So every browser was able to send these requests in the background. They all worked a little bit different, so we had to adjust our code for each one of the browsers. So yeah, classic early JavaScript chaos, but it was possible. And back then, all browsers meant Netscape, Internet Explorer 5 and 6, Safari, Opera, and this brand new browser called Firefox. So no Chrome yet, no Chrome. So this was the Ajax revolution, right? The term Ajax was first mentioned or was coined, in fact, on the year 2005. This was the year that the term Ajax finally appeared. And what does Ajax means? Well, it's asynchronous JavaScript and XML, right? And it was coined by Jesse James Garrett on this article called Ajax, a New Approach to Web Applications. I will make sure to link it on the show notes because it's pretty interesting. Ajax is not a library. It's not a concrete piece of software, right? It's more like an approach. It's a strategy, right? It's sending these requests on the background and receiving either XML or HTTP content and updating the page. Now, given that this technology was so popular, we all started to use it. And these static websites of old felt much faster. Microsoft did something great. They were like, okay, 2 versions of Internet Explorer is not enough. Let's launch a new one. So the rooster became Netscape, Internet Explorer 5, 6, and 7, Safari, Opera, and Firefox. So we reached an era where Ajax was possible, but was painful because all those browsers had different ways of managing background asynchronous requests, and taking care of all those differences was too much work. But my friends, in 2006, relief finally arrived with the first truly massive JavaScript library, jQuery. jQuery, not the hero we deserve, but the hero we needed. So you may remember the code snippet that we just explored. Well, this is the same, but using jQuery. As you can see, it is much more compact. jQuery takes care of managing all those inconsistencies behind the scenes. You just need to focus on the logic. You don't have to write the same logic in 5 different ways, or check with the different conditionals, which browser the user is using. No. You just use this amazing Ajax function that jQuery provided. So this really lowered the barrier to using Ajax by simplifying both parts of the equation, making the synchronous requests and also updating the page with the response from the browser, right? If you ask me, jQuery was the GOAT. It was amazing, right? But it had a couple of problems. We're gonna get there. First, let's jump to 2007. It was a big year. Why? Because the iPhone finally arrived and it changed everything. But not only for the reasons that you might remember, but because it didn't support Flash. Uh, the iPhone introduced mobile browsers to the mainstream, and yeah, they didn't support Flash. I don't know if you remember Flash, Macromedia Flash, Adobe Flash. Yeah, that old thing. The iPhone didn't support it for security reasons, and that turned out to be a great decision. But first, let's pause for a moment to understand how widespread Flash was back then. Flash was everywhere. Nearly 95% of all browsers had the Flash plugin installed. And YouTube used a Flash player. So if you wanted to watch a YouTube video, you needed to have Flash, right? And complex entire websites were built in Flash. So in a strange way, in a bad way, these Flash websites were like single page applications, right? You may have something like this. This was a Flash website. And as you can see, it has many sections, but Flash was originally intended to create little animations. So all these sections are in different frames of this animation, and you, instead of using JavaScript, you will use ActionScript, which was like another version of JavaScript. And yeah, Flash wasn't good. All this is an object, an isolated object that couldn't interact with the rest of the HTML. In fact, people used to just put the bare bones HTML and just the Flash player in the middle. And you couldn't navigate. You could navigate through sections, but the URL didn't change. It was pretty bad. And especially because Flash was not an open standard. It was proprietary, it was a black box, it was insecure, it was highly flawed. But it provided essential features that we lacked back then, like the ability to play video or sound, or the ability to show custom fonts. Uh, I don't know if you remember, back then we didn't have font face. We had to use standard boring fonts like Arial, Times New Roman, and so on and so forth. And one major workaround for to show custom fonts on your website was to use Flash, often coupled with a plugin called Kufon. This Asian technology. And so, because Flash was so dominant, Apple's decision to reject it was incredibly impactful. It began on 2007 with the launch of the iPhone, but it was cemented in 2010 with the launch of the iPad and the confirmation that Flash will never run on any Apple mobile device. So, pretty big milestone in our journey. Steve Jobs wanted the web to move toward open standards. Which standards? Well, we needed HTML5, and the industry was finally heading in that direction. In 2008, the first draft of HTML5 was published, and the new browser by Google Chrome, feature many of these feature support for many of these new HTML5 tags, like audio and video. So we reached a point where by the end of the decade, jQuery was everywhere, Ajax was becoming huge, we were moving toward open standards, and many websites started to feel like web application, following the trend of Gmail and others. So here's the moment when I need to introduce another character in our story, is the guy Jason. Jason, you may know Jason because it is JavaScript object notation. And yeah, it's fine to break down JavaScript into two words if you want to create this cool acronym. So JSON was much lighter than XML. It consumed less characters to basically describe the same type of information, right? And why this was so important? Well, because many services started to return a JSON on their API responses, right? So we have Ajax, just change the little X instead of XML. Now you may return JSON. And we were watching the popularization of the REST API. So get, post, put, delete, this classic REST API was starting to become very, very famous back then. So we've done it, right? We have entire websites working with the requests that they get in the background. Ajax is popular. We have web applications. Well, perhaps not yet, because there was an issue with the responses that we got in the background, this HTML, the responses that we got in the background. Imagine this example. For example, you had a page with a to-do list, and you may create a new one, right? So you create a new to-do list, the request goes to the server, it gets back to you with a little piece of HTML that you can append at the bottom of your list. And yeah, that's it. But hey, we need to update the counter, right? And perhaps we also need to show an icon if you have more than 3 to-do elements in your list. So dealing with this using jQuery was a little bit too much. In this example, we have right here, we are hiding the form, we are appending the response to the to-dos, we count how many to-dos we have, we add one to that, and we alter the page again. So it was not ideal. This was what we now know as jQuery spaghetti code, and it was just too much. So remember, we talked about JSON, right? The JSON format was starting to be popular, and REST APIs started to return JSON, right? So we said, okay, what if instead of getting HTML, right, from the servers, we get just raw data? Now it's much easier because we have JSON instead of XML, and JSON is basically supported by every programming language on the first of earth. So we said, don't worry about the HTML server, just give me the raw data. And we will create the HTML that we need for the page on the client. The browser will take care of it. The server no longer needs to worry about rendering that HTML. Just give me the data, I will do it. So this is the beginning of client-side rendering, right? So you may have here data and templates, and that will make up the HTML that you have on the page, right? So if a new element is added to this array, the template will run again and return updated HTML that we can then use on with JavaScript to update our page. So client-side rendering was pretty revolutionary. And on 2011, many websites started using Backbone to orchestrate all these changes. Backbone was a pretty cool library created by the author of Underscore and CoffeeScript. And back then, it was pretty popular. Many websites started using Backbone to build these highly interactive experiences on their applications. So we also had handlebars, the underscore render function, Backbone, all these kind of technologies that imply having a template, a target on the page. We fetch the records on initialize, and then we render, made possible the rise of the single page application. Just by this year, the websites didn't just update little parts of the application. Entire websites were built around it. So, for example, Airbnb, Bitbucket, SoundCloud, all these great companies used single-page applications. So now we are there, right? Now we are done. We are done with this timeline. Everything is fine. Everything is great. Well, not yet. We need one more step. But first, let's explore why the term single page. It didn't mean that Airbnb listed all their offerings on the same page. No, it meant that we didn't have to rely on full reloads to show new information on the page, right? Obviously, Airbnb had many pages, but the idea was that you could navigate between them without a full page reload. JavaScript listened for changes in the URL hash. So you may have, for example, hash messages, hash messages 45, 46, wherever, right? And back then, it was easy to spot an SPA because navigation relied on listening for the changes on the hash in the URL. If the URL stayed the same and the hash part changed, well, it was most likely an SPA. And today, thanks to HTML5 history API, you can do the same without the hash. So it not only feels like a full page reload, but also looks like one. So I said we needed one more jump, right? And this jump was about to happen. Take, for example, this template, right? We are looping photos and we are looping tags. And this template may generate an HTML like this, right? What if a couple of tags change? It will be something like this. You notice two of the tags are changing, right? The first tag is changing and the last one as well. So if you had a template that was this whole div and just two of these tags changed, you needed to repaint the whole thing, right? You needed to interact with the DOM and change the whole div. Now, that is inefficient, and that's why I said we still need one more jump, because doing these kind of big changes on the DOM is expensive for the browser. And people started to wonder if there were better things of updating and interacting with the DOM. That's how in 2012, AngularJS appeared. And it came with amazing concepts like two-way data binding components, and the way Angular made these repaints on the page was thanks to dirty checking, just basically by watching the list of elements on an array, for example, and if something changed there, okay, I will go and make edits on the page. And 1 year later, we have, the rise of React. And I know, we are on a Vue meetup, but credit where credit is due. React revolutionized the web. And it came with JSX, which I don't like, but it came with JSX and the virtual DOM. What is the virtual DOM? Well, the idea was to have a copy of the real DOM in memory, right? And instead of direct changes to the DOM, which, as we have seen, are expensive, we were able to first interact with this virtual DOM, change all the nodes that we needed, and then push the changes just in one go to the real DOM, right? And it was pretty revolutionary and still inefficient, but it was really, really good and allowed you to define your templates in a much more declarative way. But now, for the moment you've been waiting for, 2014, and yes, Vue is here. I think I have like the wait. I will find it. Yeah, I found it. Confetti. Let's go. Confetti. Vue is here. And I don't know if you are like me, but I'm a huge Vue fan. And from the start, Vue really resonated with me. The first version of Vue didn't have a virtual DOM. It had direct data binding, but the second version of Vue in 2016 came with a virtual DOM, right? I discovered Vue that year thanks to Laravel. Laravel came with Vue, and many of you may remember this little snippet and this remedies. In 2016, another thing, really big thing happened. Svelte was, again, revolutionizing the way we look at applications, because they said, okay, forget about the runtime. The virtual DOM is slow. Let's create highly optimized code with a compiler. So you run a compiler, it grabs all your code and create highly efficient JavaScript code that you can run in the browser, and it's much faster than checking for changes using the runtime. And Vue was inspired by this. On version 3, we have compiler-informed virtual DOM. With it makes a couple of big enhancements, but follows the same approach. So now we can say that we made it, right? We travel back in time. We discover the amazing websites of years old, but now we made it. We can run applications on the browser, and this, I don't know if you agree, this is an amazing experience for the user. Because imagine you visit, for example, YouTube, and you're watching a video and you send a comment and the whole thing reloads and the video stops, and yeah, it's a mess. Of course, having web applications running on the browser, thanks to all these cool technologies, allows a much faster and way more efficient way of interacting with your service than those old static websites. And the main benefit of this approach is speed. Again, the speed is super important for the user, right? But let me talk about another advantage that was a consequence of this kind of separation between applications and APIs. In the early days, the webmaster did everything, right? The web was simple enough that a person could handle layout, design, programming, everything, right? But as things grew more complex, the split between front end and back end became more natural. The front end was no longer this static HTML like the Space Jam website. It was a dynamic interface powered by JavaScript, powered by all these different frameworks, and styled with increasingly capable CSS. So this specialization was inevitable. So we have front end and back end, and specialized developers on each side of the equation, right? And let me clear up a common misconception. You may have heard people talking about front end like, yeah, it's about the color of the buttons, and it's just UI, UX, and making things look pretty. And the backend is this big, complex, scary thing with databases, logic, and all that. Well, not anymore. Not anymore, because on the front end, as we have seen, we have state management, we have databases, we have complex logic. We read raw data, and we need to hydrate the application to show that data. We have WebSockets and streaming and all that. So it's super complex. The web made front end developers much more capable. It gave them tools to make much more interactive experiences. So to me, front end is the art of dealing with the browser and what it gets from the server, but in all layers, right? You may have complex logic, you may have databases, you may have everything just running on the front end. And the backend is the art of dealing with the server and what it sends to the browser. And again, you may have complex logic there, but database interactions there, but nowadays front end is as complex as backend was back in the day, or was everything. And I know many of you may remember the years of just having an index HTML and call it a day. Perhaps most of websites today, even today, benefit from having just static HTML pages, right? But that doesn't mean that these highly interactive applications aren't the thing that users really, really want, right? So we covered a long list of things in this presentation, but let me tell you, I was here to talk about Vue. Yes, let's talk a little bit more about Vue. We are reaching the end. In fact, we reached the end of our time traveling exercise. Welcome back to 2025. And I have good news and bad news. First is that single page applications are still everywhere. We use these amazing apps every single day, and you will have a lot of fun creating websites or experiences for your users using JavaScript and the latest capabilities of this wonderful language that is constantly evolving. And the bad news is that React won. React won the battle. No discussion, no discussion. But that is totally fine. Yeah, React won. If you ask an AI to build a website or an application and you do not specify a framework, it will use React, right? It's the most popular front-end library by far. Vue is still a really, really efficient alternative, same as Svelte or Angular. But it's true, React is way more popular. But again, using Vue still makes sense on 2025. That's why I want to finish this session trying to transmit why should you go for Vue even today, right? So I have a few tips, 5 tips, and let's explore these tips. Perhaps you may use them when this awkward conversation with your boss or a client asking, hey, why no React comes up. So React has a huge ecosystem, but it often feels scattered. You need to pick a router, then a state manager, perhaps a bundler, a meta framework. So it's a library at the end of the day. It's not a framework, right? So after a few months, you need perhaps to revisit your choices. And on the other hand, Vue keeps things simple. You have much better first-party support. It gives you an official toolkit that works together out of the box. So you have an official router, you have an official state management piña, you have a go-to meta framework with Next, right? If you need to build a application, but you still need server-side rendering with hydration, well, Next is there. And everything fits. Everything feels intentional and far less fragmented than React. Another big reason to pick Vue is truly reactive. And yes, React revolutionized the way we write applications, but I still feel like React is a funny name for a library that doesn't always react the way you would expect. There is no two-way binding, so you need to spend a lot of time wiring pieces together manually. Let's take a look at this example. For example, here you have an input updating a title, and this will work out of the box. And this is the same example used in React. You need to go for a hook, use a state, and then on change of the input, you need to go ahead and do set title. A lot of people prefer this. I'm not in that group, let me tell you. Another big advantage of Vue are single file components. JSX was never my cup of tea. I really don't like it. It feels, to me, it feels like a modern version of all PHP spaghetti. On the other hand, I feel like single file components help my mental model and help me find things. On a JSX file, you may have many components, right? All on the same file. And yeah, I don't like that much. I think that single file components with a script, templates, and style really help me to build application faster. Then we have another excuse for your boss or your client, a list of big companies using Vue. Yeah, you can enter these websites. Let's go here. Do I have it? Yeah. Next.com/showcase, and you will see the list of amazing companies that are using Next and Vue today, right? So if NASA is using Vue, well, then Vue is not that bad. Am I right? That's a good pitch. And the last point is, to me, Vue is the future. Vue is future proof because soon we will have the official release of Vue Vapor. Vue Vapor is the next big step in performance for Vue applications. It takes the idea of reactivity and pushes it even further because it will not rely on the virtual DOM. We explore the DOM, we explore the virtual DOM, and Vue Vapor will disregard the DOM. We won't need it. It will compile your templates into small direct DOM operations. And that means fewer layers of abstraction and way faster updates on the page. You can check out the Vue Vapor Alpha today. You can start tinkering with it and check also the benchmarks because it's blazing fast. So Vue Vapor, to me, is the future. When you choose Vue today, you're not only choosing a framework that is strong right now, you're choosing a framework that it has a clear path forward, and it will be amazing to see amazingly fast applications using Vue Vapor and beating React applications in terms of speed, let me tell you. Okay, so we come a long way, almost 3 decades of web history. We saw how the web transformed from slow full page reloads to dynamic experience powered by JavaScript. We saw the rise of Ajax, the chaos of early browsers, the fall of Flash, the arrival of the iPhone, the birth of frameworks, and the moment when the idea of web applications became real. Every step brought us closer to the tools that we use today. And I think knowing about this history really makes you value how easy it is to work with these amazing frameworks today, right? I know, again, it might be overwhelming, but now you know which problems they are solving. So now when someone asks you why would you go and build a single page application, why you pick Vue, well, you have the full timeline. You know how we got here, why these tools exist, and which problems they are designed to solve. So thank you so much for sharing this journey with me. I hope this talk help you with your conversations on your team, with your clients, and even with yourself when you think, okay, which framework should I pick? But more than that, I hope it inspires you. It inspires you to create awesome applications and learn more about Vue and the whole ecosystem. So thank you so much, Sri Lanka. This was my talk. And now we'll have the Q&A. But again, thank you so much for picking me to be your first ever speaker. This was delightful. And yeah, leave your questions. I will answer them right now.
The session, we all absolutely loved it. And yeah, as you said, we have a couple of questions. So the first question asked by Asri is, are there any new developments in the Vue framework?
Well, yes. As I said on the last part of the talk, Vue Vapor will be really, really big. It's blazing fast. It's much faster than the current implementation of virtual DOM. So it no longer use uses the virtual DOM. It's pretty similar to what Signal is doing with Signals, so it will be much faster. And the good thing is that you won't have to rework your code to use Vue Vapor. You only will have to add the Vapor directive on script setup, and there you go. The compiler will take care of optimizing your code. You will still write the code, the Vue code, the classic single file components that you write today, but they will be compatible with Vue Vapor. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that.
All right, amazing. So, a different question asked by Shehla. How would a newcomer begin learning the Vue ecosystem, the Vue router? Uh, yes.
Vue router, Piña, Bit, Nag, yeah. Again, it's a lot. It's a lot, but I would recommend you first getting familiar with the documentation. Go to the official Vue website and start reading the documentation. I know it might seem like a chore or boring, but it's a pretty fundamental part of the learning journey. And just to start, fire your IDE and install Vue and start tinkering and start playing with it. I will recommend to leave Piña for kind of the second part of your learning journey, and then you can go ahead and try to build stuff with Next. Regarding Bit is pretty easy to use. So the only things that you will need to understand are what the commands do, right? How would you run the application with npm run dev, and you will have the local application, and then npm run build, and it will compile your application, and you will just need to host it somewhere. So regarding Bit, I wouldn't recommend you to start tweaking it too much. The defaults are pretty good. So focus on learning Vue and learning about reactivity first. Then go and check out state management if the Vue composables are no longer fitting your needs. And once you master all that, you can go ahead and learn about Next, which is a meta framework. So it's another layer of complexity on top that you don't need as long as your application doesn't need server-side rendering, right?
Right. Next one. What advice would you give to beginners starting with front end today? And as well, additionally, Nico, I would also like to add in, like mostly in here, students, they focus more on online courses like Coursera, Udemy. So if you could, would you be able to suggest what courses that they can do, and if there's quite an impact for it when they join the industries as an entry level?
Yes, of course. I would say as a beginner, again, as I said before, go to the Next documentation, try to learn by reading the docs. I think it's pretty important. And start tinkering, start creating little applications like, I don't know, the classic to-do list is a good example. Don't get too complicated with, don't go the rabbit hole trying to do everything at the same time, right? Like managing state and making requests to the API, to different APIs, and so on and so forth. Just create a simple thing, right? And you can append additional layers on complexity little by little. So I would say as resources, you can go to Vue School. They have a masterclass that is amazing. You can follow that masterclass and it will teach you everything you need to know in these bite-sized videos that are really easy to follow. They have great teachers. So Vue School is a really nice resource. And I'm not only saying this because I work there, right? It's truly a great resource. But if Otherwise, you can go ahead and watch videos on YouTube. There are many courses, full courses there. But here is, if you want to take just one advice from me today, listen to this. Do not stay at the forever tutorial step, right? You need to go beyond that. I know many people that are trying to learn and they say, okay, another tutorial, or I need to buy another course, or just one more, bro. I will watch this YouTube video and will give me what I need. No, try to go beyond that. Try to, if you are comfortable with Vue, try to build something, right? Try to solve a problem. And by solving this problem and by creating an application that actually works for users, you will notice, okay, I need to speak with an API, I need a database, I need state management. And then that will fire that research that you need to do to solve that particular problem. But please do not stay on that forever tutorial after tutorial phase. I know we've been there. I did it as well. But you need to start tinkering and creating concrete applications that will give you the knowledge that you need by actually doing, and not just watching along a lot of YouTube tutorials. Yeah, that's one of my main advices.
Amazing. So let's just go for three more questions.
Mhm.
Do you prefer server-side rendering or client-side rendering, Nico?
Super interesting question. This is something that you need to know. You need to identify the needs of the client. Let's say a client comes to you and tells you, hey, I need an application for my local shop. I need to check my stock with an online application. These are my needs. And you might say, okay, this looks like a web application. We can create an application running in the browser as we've seen today and serve the needs of this client. Do they need server-side rendering? The answer is no. How do we know? Well, because it's just an app to manage their stock. They don't need to be ranking on search engines, right? They don't need Google. They just need an application for their shop. So if you don't need to rank on Google, if you don't need to create HTML for the Google bot to read and to rank your website, I would say go with the simpler solution. Just client-side rendering is totally fine in those instances. Now, if you get another client, a different client, and it tells you, oh yeah, I have a blog where I need to post different information. I need to post information about, I don't know, traveling or whatever industry they work in, right? And you may ask, okay, so do you need Google to rank your website? And they may answer, yes, of course, I need to appear on Google. Well, then in that case, a client-side rendered application won't fit their needs. Why? Because client-side rendered application is just an empty div, right? With a bunch of JavaScript making it work, right? Vue will mount in that div and the whole application will start from there. But when Googlebot goes to that HTML and reads the content, it will not find anything, right? It will not find content. So if you actually need to be ranked by Google or other search engines, then you need to provide a server-side rendered application. And you can use Next to do so. Next take care of creating this server-side rendered version of the site. And when people visit your site, they will get their first visit will be on a page that will be server-side render. And from there, the application will hydrate, and the next navigations will be just as a client-side render application. It will be just a single-page application working from there on. But yeah, that's kind of the approach that you need to take. Does this client need to rank on search engine? Yes or no? And of course, you can go for a server-side application, even though they don't need to rank on search engines, right? But it's much simpler to just approach the solution using just a client-side rendered application. So just Vue. So that's what I would say.
Right, amazing. As well, Nico, they have asked if you could suggest a few entry-level positions for Sri Lankans to work remotely and a position that actually provides good value. I believe, since you mentioned several big companies where they are using Vue, including NASA. So how does the job landscape look like in terms of Vue-related opportunities remotely and that these Sri Lankan youth can tap in?
Well, this is a super interesting question. The thing is that when you look at job board, you might find like 10,000 React jobs and 3 Vue jobs. Oh, well, and perhaps I'm exaggerating a little bit. But the truth is that you may see that React is much more on demand than Vue. I would say do not get discouraged. If you like Vue, if you want to work on a company that uses Vue, you need to master Vue to be one of the top picks on your field, right? Really, really focus on learning Vue, on learning reactivity, on learning the whole ecosystem to be one of the top candidates, right? Even when applying for an entry-level job, you need to be the best of the rooster, right? That's how a company will pick you. And there are many companies asking for Vue developers, even though the market share, as we know, is dominated by React. Do not get discouraged. Keep learning Vue. Learn React if you actually need the job, and you can obviously take a job working with React and their ecosystem, but you will be prepared to jump into a Vue position when once one of that kind opens. Now, the job market in general for juniors is a little bit harsh at the moment because of economy and all that boring stuff. But let me tell you, the only thing that you can do to break those barriers is become better. You need to learn more. You need to prepare yourself. You need to have a great portfolio. You need to practice interviews, because that's a really big step in your journey, right? You need to know how to conduct yourself on an interview, how to speak, how to show actually what you have learned in the couple of minutes that you have with the interviewer. So it's not easy. Of course, it's not easy, but almost all things in life that are really valuable are not easy. So prepare yourself and really go for it, study, and you will get the job. I'm certain that if you are good, you will get a junior position, mid-level position, senior position, whatever you are looking for. So yeah, that's what I will suggest. But good luck with the job. You will find it.
Thank you, Nico. And also, just last two questions as well. How do you see the future of SPAs in the next few years?
Well, we explore the past today, and it's pretty amazing that in my lifetime I've seen how the internet evolved from those old crappy websites to these amazing SPAs that we are using today. For example, we are streaming using an SPA. The StreamYard, this service, is actually a web application. I didn't have to install anything on my computer, and that's pretty amazing. It was unheard of just a few years back, or I don't know. Most of my career, I was building experiences that were much more limited than these amazing web apps that we have today. So I only see SPAs improving from here on. JavaScript is much better supported language today. Browsers are adopting standards more and more. We don't have anymore that crazy disparity between browsers, and new APIs are being introduced to JavaScript every year thanks to ECMAScript. So I only see a bright future for SPAs. In fact, almost anything you want to build, you can build it as a web application with the tools that we have today. So that's pretty mind-blowing to an old fella like me.
All right. And Nico, for the last question,
Mm-hmm.
what are your favorite tools in the Vue ecosystem?
My favorite tools, well, I will mention Vue Youth if I had to pick one. This awesome library of composables that let you save a lot of time because they have a composable for almost anything you can think of. Vue Use is my top pick for today. Of course, you have an Axe, you have Piña, but if you are just starting, take a look at Vue Use because you may understand how you can create your own composable by reading how these composables, the pre-made composable, function. So I will pick that one, Vue Use.
Right, Nico, that's amazing. And I think we have come to an end with the Q&A session. So Nico, thank you so much once again for this amazing, insightful session. We've been getting a lot of personal comments on how amazing it is. So before we wrap up, we'd love to capture this moment with our wonderful organizing team, the Vue.js Sri Lanka community that made this possible. So if you can, please turn on your cameras for a quick group photo.
Let's do it. Hey, Madhusha.
By the way, Madhusha is in charge of the Vue.js Sri Lanka community, so he has met Madhusha and Yasit with other teams. Madhusha, do give a signal once it's done.
Madhusha, you are muted. So
Yeah, it's
there we go.
yeah, it's done.
All right.
Thank you for joining to the
All
session.
right.
No problem. Did you take the picture? I want to take a picture as well. Put your. Yeah, there we go. I will take a screenshot. Everyone, hands in the air. I will take the screenshot. There we go. Yeah, let's go. Thank you.
Amazing. So, yeah. So, Nico, thank you once again for sharing your knowledge and energy with us tonight. We really hope to collaborate with you further as Vue.js goes through. So, also to our audience, you can follow him on his socials and his blog at nicodevs.com and as well at the Titan blogs for more great content. So, to our amazing audience, thank you for spending your evening with us and your time. So we have many more exciting sessions lined up as Nico mentioned. So stay tuned to the Vue.js Sri Lanka community. And before we officially sign off, we want to take a moment to send our thoughts and prayers to our Sri Lankan community. As many of you may know, our country is currently facing severe flooding, and our hearts go out to all families affected. So we sincerely hope for everyone's safety, strength, and recovery during this difficult time. So, everyone, this is Heidi Tiarchi signing off. Have a safe and a peaceful evening, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.